In this video, we're going to be covering everything about your DJI Osmo Pocket, from your cinematic settings, standard versus D-Log, and tips on getting the very best image. Now, I'm somebody who owns a lot of cameras, and the Osmo Pocket is one of the coolest cameras that I own. By the way, this video is not in any way sponsored by DJI. I wish. Not only is it the smallest and most convenient camera that I own, I mean, having this kind of quality that can literally fit in your pocket is ridiculous. But it's also one of the most fun cameras that I own. So if you own a DJI Osmo Pocket and you want to make the quality a little bit better, or you have one on the way and you're excited and watching all the DJI videos, we're going to go over all the settings to make your footage look a little more cinematic. I'm also going to give you all the accessories that I use for it, and honestly, if I didn't have them, I would never carry this camera. Really quick before we get into the settings, if you get the creator combo, then it will come with a DJI Mic 2. In my opinion, is one of the best microphones that you can buy, because we all know that audio quality is everything in your video. People can watch bad quality video, but they cannot listen to bad quality audio. That has been proven time and time again. Okay, so there are two ways to turn on this camera. We can either flip the screen just like that, or we can hold in this red button right there. There's really no right or wrong answer, but if you're filming for YouTube, then I would just get in the habit of flipping the screen. Or you're filming like Instagram Reels, then I would just hold in the red button, because it's gonna put you in that portrait mode. This is landscape, this is portrait. We want landscape for YouTube, portrait for literally everything else. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on the Osmo Pocket. If we go to the left-hand side of the screen and swipe to the right, that is how you're gonna access all of the footage that you've taken so far. Then if you can see this little camcorder sign right here, if you tap that, it's gonna tell you whether you're on video, photo, if you wanna put it on panorama. You can do low light, slow-mo, and time-lapse. If you go to the top of the screen and swipe down, all right, so here we have the main menu. We're gonna start with this little circle with the arrow around it right here. So if we tap that, so when this is turned on, your Osmo Pocket will automatically start recording whenever you flip that screen to turn it on. Personally, I have that turned off because I always wanna set my camera up the way I want it without wasting that storage space. And I'm rarely ever ready when I first get my camera out. So I have that turned off, but again, it's up to you. Then you can also set what type of video it captures if you have that toggled on. So I have mine set on video, but you could also put it on low light or hyperlapse. But I just keep mine on video, and if I ever want to change it, I can. That's all for that one. This little sun right here is just your screen brightness, pretty simple. You want to turn it down or up, I always have mine at 100% because I'm oftentimes shooting in very bright areas and I need to see what I'm doing. And this right here, the little man with the square around it, is just your face tracking, so you can turn it on or off, and that will find your face if the camera is facing towards you, which is super helpful, so you don't have to double tap your face, so it will track you. All right, so we're gonna come over to this little screw icon right here, which just is your settings. And like I said before, if you got the creator combo kit, then it is going to come with that DJI Mic 2. It's very simple to set up. All you do is tap wireless mic, and then we're going to take the microphone, turn it on, we're going to hold it in, and you're going to see that it's connected. DJI Mic 2, transmitter 1 connected. If you're doing it for the first time though, you're going to have to press this little Bluetooth button right here, and it will connect automatically. It's very simple to use. And when it's connected, you can see that audio moving up and down. Always good to double check. Trust me, I've done that so many times. There's nothing worse than getting to post-processing and your sound is awful. Okay, and then you know you have to film it all over again. You can also do the gimbal startup direction. I have mine on forward. You can have it on selfie mode if you want to, which would just be backwards. Then I have a rotate screen to power off. So when you want to turn your Osmo Pocket off, all you do is rotate your screen, gives it 2 seconds, and then it will turn off. Then you have wearable mode. So if you tap confirm and wear it in wearable mode, the camera will lock in selfie mode. I don't ever have that turned on, but it's an option if you want it. And then you have the slider control Okay, this is something that I had a lot of trouble with whenever I first got my Osmo Pocket, but the joystick right here, when it comes out of the box, that joystick is set to zoom and not to move the gimbal up and down. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to change that. So that is where you change it. And I'm also gonna give you a shortcut when we get back to the home screen. I was like, I work all these complicated cameras and I cannot figure out how to move the gimbal. There's a shortcut on the home screen so you can switch from moving the gimbal up and down and then zooming with the joystick. And then you have selfie flip. That's pretty self-explanatory. The camera will face towards you. And then you have the built-in mic audio backup. That's just the microphone that's inside of the Osmo Pocket, which, by the way, the microphone inside of the Osmo Pocket is actually really good, but I'm always going to be an advocate for you to get your own microphone or just get the creator combo, because honestly, I don't think the Osmo Pocket is worth it if you don't get the creator combo. I really don't. Then we have your wireless connection, your gimbal calibration. Sometimes you're gonna need to calibrate your gimbal. It's very easy to do. It'll give you directions. Then we have your video compression. I would change it to H.264. That's just gonna give you a higher quality video. Then we have the sounds of the gimbal, okay? You can turn them off if you want to. So if you don't want that beeping sound whenever you start recording, then leave it off. That's totally fine. But for me and my peace of mind, so I don't have to keep checking my Osmo Pocket, I need to hear that beep so I know that it's recording. Then we have reference lines. So you can put grid lines on your video recording just so you know everything is set up nice and evenly. But if you don't feel like that's something that you need, just leave it off. I've been doing this so long that I don't put it on anymore, but if you're a beginner, I think that's an excellent way to make sure that your subject is centered. Then you have factory reset, your device information if you ever need it. Okay, this is also an important setting. You can automatically set it to film in either landscape, portrait, meaning if you flip the camera up, it would be portrait mode for, you know, TikToks, Instagram Reels. And when the screen is landscape, then it will shoot for things like YouTube. Then right here, we have the rotational speed. Now this is the rotational speed of your gimbal. You can put it on slow, default, or fast. I would just leave it on default. And then you have your different gimbal modes right here. And if you're ever confused as to what they are, there's always a little paragraph here explaining what would be best depending on what you're shooting. Remember I said there's a little trick to either get the gimbal to zoom in or move up and down? I'm gonna show you what that is right here. Okay, if you look right here to the right of the screen, it has a plus sign and a minus sign. It'll say something like 1.0x. If you tap that, it will then go into zoom mode. If you tap it again, it will move the gimbal up and down. Just so you don't have to keep going into the menu to change it, because that can be a pain. I'm all about shortcuts on cameras, because when you need to get the shot, you need to get it right then and there. All right, let's talk about how to set your resolution, because this is very, very important, okay? We want the highest possible quality coming from your content, because no matter which platform you use, it compresses it just a little bit. So we always wanna make sure that we have the highest resolution and the most information to work with within that file, so we can create those cinematic videos that everyone loves. All right, so to set your resolution, all you're gonna do is go to the bottom of the screen and swipe up. I always have mine on 4K 24 frames per second. Now, if I'm intentionally shooting a slow motion clip, I will go ahead and move it to 4K 60 frames per second. But again, that is always intentional. Now, why do we do 24 frames per second? And I know if you're new to videography, you're probably like, what the heck does that even mean? So 24 frames per second has a very natural motion blur. And it also very closely mimics to how the human eye sees motion. So it's the most satisfying to watch. Produces a really smooth, dreamy, cinematic quality that we're used to seeing in movies. It is the gold standard of frame rates when it comes to cinematic videos. So if you're ever confused and you can't remember, just know 24 frames per second, you will never go wrong. I'm not sure why anyone would even entertain a lower resolution, so we're always gonna leave it at 4K 24 frames per second. Now, I will say, whenever you have it in portrait mode, you can only do 3K 24 frames per second, but you can also do 3K up to 60 frames per second if you're shooting for things like TikTok and Instagram. Now let's get into our actual video settings. So you're gonna go to the right side of your screen and swipe to the left. Now they have standard and pro mode. We are always going to be in pro mode only. So let's go over to exposure. We're gonna tap exposure. You are gonna have it at 1/50th of a second for your shutter speed. And I would say don't ever adjust that ever again, okay? My camera, no matter which camera I'm shooting on, is always 1/50th of a second for shutter speed. Now for your ISO over here, you can give it a range. And when you give it a range, it will pick the best ISO depending on your filming situation, okay? That's why I like to give it a range, because you won't have to go in and adjust your ISO for every single setting, every single cloud shift, or if you're in the shade, like I have to do with these bigger cameras right here. You know your camera is going to pick the best ISO for your situation, and it's much less stress for you. So for the range, I'm gonna have it at 50 to 3200 for my ISO. And remember, the lower your ISO, the darker your image, the higher your ISO, the brighter your image. Or you can put it on auto, but if I were you and you want that more cinematic look, I would leave it on manual. Then we're gonna click confirm. Let's go over here to your white balance. Now for my other cameras, I set the white balance anywhere from 5000 to 6200. The lower your white balance, the cooler, more blue your image. The higher your white balance, the more warm and inviting your image looks, okay? But for the Osmo Pocket, I will say, and I've played around with the manual settings, the auto white balance is fine, okay? So I'm gonna say just put it on auto. But this is also something that is easily fixable in post, and if you have it on auto white balance, you'll have a lot of room to play with in post-processing. So I'm gonna just say put it on auto. As for glamour effects, that's kind of like a filter. I'm gonna say leave it turned off. You're beautiful as you are, and you don't need that. Now for your picture profile or your color, you can either do normal, which looks like this. This is what a normal picture profile looks like on the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's honestly not bad at all. But if you're someone who likes to color grade, then I would do D-Log. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tap that until it says D-Log. Now this is what unedited D-Log footage looks like. This is what all cinematic footage looks like before it's color graded. Now, if you don't know how to color grade, no big deal, leave it on normal. But if someday you get brave and you wanna learn how to color grade, shoot in D-Log and learn. And this is a side-by-side of what the normal picture profile looks like versus a color graded D-Log picture profile. I think both look really good. So if you want to shoot in the normal picture profile, do it. It's still gonna look insanely good. Then we just have the focus mode. You can leave it on continuous. I just leave it on continuous. I don't really ever touch that. And then this part is really important so your image doesn't look too sharp. We want to come over here to image adjustment. We're going to do custom. We're going to move the sharpness to a -2 and the noise reduction to a 1 and click confirm. Now, why do we want to do that with the image adjustment? Well, sometimes with cameras like this, the image can look too sharp. We want it to be pleasant and soft and cinematic. One more section on the Osmo to look at. We're gonna tap right here on the left-hand side, and it says face auto detect. Now, you can turn this on or off. So when the camera turns on, it will either detect your face or not. And then if you come down to spin shot, you can set the gimbal to do a full 360 video shot, which is pretty cool. And that's pretty much it as far as settings are concerned. It's a very user-friendly camera. Really quick though, I want to get into the accessories that make this camera worth owning. Like I said, I probably would not carry this camera around without them. First one I'm going to recommend is this magnet. I literally stick the Osmo to everything metal when I'm filming just to get more interesting angles. And if you get the creator kit, then it will come with this tripod, which is super useful, especially if you're filming by yourself, which most of us are. Next, I'm going to recommend the Black Pro Mist. I believe this came with the creator kit as well, but you can see how it really softens those lights and gives it that cinematic feel. And all you do to attach it is stick it on there. It is just a magnet. and it sits flush with it so you don't even really notice. The next accessory I'm going to recommend is the tripod mount, because let's be honest, we need a bigger tripod than what comes with the creator kit. But here's the thing, babe, you can watch this whole tutorial, but if you don't actually go out and use it and create, then this would have all been for nothing. So I need you to actually take your camera out of the house and go create. Press that record button and make it happen. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one.